Respected brothers and sisters, all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has given us the opportunity to come to His house. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our ibadah. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us the khair of this day. We ask the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from all types of harm and evil. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a very powerful thing which is a source of protection for the entire creation. And as we are mentioning regarding actions which should be done in abundance by this believer to develop a characteristics inside this man that makes him closer and valuable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of the recommendation in which Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had commanded for the believers to do as much as possible, ikthar. These are those actions which creates and generates the value of this human being and makes him more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first amal that we talked about, and these are actions that are to be done by the tongue, so they are more of a statements than action themselves. It was about the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then number two was the recitation of Quran as much as possible. We went through different aspects of it, memorization, reading, how much to read, how much to complete. The next item that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has recommended and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded is istighfar, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. The two words, istighfar and tawbah, istighfar is the action of the tongue. What does istighfar mean? Talabul maghfirah, to seek forgiveness. And the right word is istighfar with the kasra on the hamza. A lot of people say astaghfar. It's not astaghfar. It's istighfar. And when you recite istighfar, you recite with astaghfirullah. Because istighfar is a masdar and astaghfara is a fi'l. So you confuse both and you say both of them astaghfar. It's not astaghfar, it's istighfar. And the way to recite is astaghfirullah. It means I seek Allah Azza wa Jal's forgiveness. When you say astaghfirullah, you are saying, Allah, I seek your forgiveness. And then there are so many different types of istighfar you can recite, which are proven through Quran and Sunnah. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has mentioned in multiple places that Allah is most forgiving and most merciful. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. There are more than 150 places in the Quran where Allah has used these attributes of His, Ghafur and Rahim, forgiving and merciful. And more than 20 places in the Quran where Allah has commanded the believers to do istighfar. Has commanded the people to do istighfar. And what istighfar brings benefit in the life of a person. فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا. As Allah mentions too in the story of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. يَا قَوْمِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ. Every Nabi, every prophet that Allah Azza wa Jal has sent, apart from the message that they brought for people to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, in the oneness of Allah, they also commanded their people to do istighfar. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions, إِنِّي أَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ فِي الْيَوْمِ 70 مرة وفي رواية 100 مرة. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I seek Allah's forgiveness every single day 70 times, in one narration 100 times. And this takthir, this ta'deed is not for is not for confining it to that number. It's rather takthir. It is mentioning that how many times that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did istighfar throughout the entire day. Istighfar has so many benefits, and inshallah we will talk about in the upcoming sessions about the benefit that istighfar brings in the life of a believer. But to understand that istighfar is not only that when you do something wrong. If a person, we tell him to do istighfar, he says, I didn't do anything wrong. The first and foremost thing is there are so many things that a believer does wrong without even realizing that he's doing wrong. The Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, in later on after the demise of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that one of the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam is addressing the community and telling the tabi'een that innakum lata'tamuna min amalin, you are doing such actions, hiya adaqqu min afi a'yunikum, which you consider to be even smaller than a hair. Meaning you don't consider to be you don't consider to be a significant action as far as the bad actions are considered or something wrong is considered. وإنما تعدون من في زمن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من المهلكات أو كما قال, that during the time of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم we used to consider these actions to be destroyers of our deeds. So as the time goes, the actions of human being, they started to deteriorate in quality. And as they deteriorate, they also become very weak. When a person praises salah, his amal. Like for example, we just finished our salah. Now, when we just finished our salah, salah is an ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we all know the condition of our salah. We all know the type of salah that we have prayed and the type of salah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts. So, the first thing we need to understand that istighfar is not only asking Allah for forgiveness if you did something wrong. Because if that was the case, then the Prophet ﷺ was exempt from sinning by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal, He forgave. Allah Azza wa Jal says, إِنَّا فَتَحْنَا لَكَ فَتْحًا مُبِينًا لِيَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ وَيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ وَيَهْدِيَكَ صِرَاطًا مُسْتَقِيمًا. That Allah has forgiven your past and future sins. So if there are sins, then those are forgiven. And if they are going to happen, they are also forgiven. Yet, the Prophet ﷺ, he has done istighfar throughout his entire day. So that means istighfar is not to be asking for forgiveness only if you've done something wrong. It has different levels. Istighfar goes through different levels. And inshallah, in the upcoming session, we'll talk about the different levels of istighfar and the benefit that istighfar brings in the life of a believer. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the understanding and the ability to practice. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallah.